It is your boy Niner Sickness. I got my boy Shifty there. And this is the new 49ers weekly recap show. What is up, Laker Nation? I mean, Niners Empire. What's up, guys? This is your boy Niner Sickness and my boy Kalen of Shifty 49ers Talk. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. A lot of stuff to talk about with the Niners. Of course, we got that the Warriors getting their rings tonight. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a
Yes,
great game,
sir.
first game of NBA. But of course, we're here to talk 49er football, so can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, I hear you, bro. Definitely first day of the NBA. I had to take that mask off, brother. First day of the NBA, looking forward to it. Opens up with at least for the game that we want to watch, the San Francisco Bay Area Warriors against the LA Lakers. But this is a 49er this is the 49er weekly recap show. I am your host, Niner Sickness, with my other host, Kalen. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Falcons. And we have a couple of topics that we're going to bring up and we're going to discuss. And we're going to give you our perspective of what I think about the topic and what Kalen's thoughts are. And then you in the comments as you watch the video, feel free to either agree or disagree with us. Let us know what your thoughts are. But most importantly, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and let your friends and family know about our prospective channels, either my channel, the Niner Sickness Podcast, or my boy's channel, Shifty's 49ers Talk. Please make sure to support each and every one of us. We do appreciate it. Well, Kalen, it wasn't a good week, my friend. It was definitely a defeat in the hands of the dirty, dirty birds. 28-14. And it just, I don't know about you. I want to get your perspective, but to me, it sounded like the birds just had their way with us, bro. It felt like Alfred Hitchcock in the movie The Birds, where they were just all over us and we could not contain that run. We couldn't stop it. The outside run, the inside run, it was just domination by the Falcons. What were your thoughts of the game?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a pretty tough one to watch from the get go. The Falcons have a really long drive to start the game. They score a touchdown. Our first drive of the game, Jeff Wilson Jr. fumbles it, return for a touchdown. All of a sudden, bam, we're down 14 points. But overall, I think it just seemed like the intensity wasn't there. Like the Falcons were what we normally do to teams is what the Falcons did to us. Defensively, we didn't actually, gave up 21 points, which is, for this defense, it's a lot. Yardage, I think we did okay in, but we just didn't really have an answer, I think, for Mariota, his mobility, a lot of those like RPOs, read options, all this different stuff that they threw at us, no way to answer it. And then the defense was just every time we went to make a tackle, it seemed like they were falling forward like 3, 4, 5 yards. Offensively, some crazy missed opportunities, drops, penalties, but turning the ball over as well, of course, and all the things that you can't do when you want to win on the road. So just a frustrating game, really. Falcons deserve to win. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I have my window open and my dog is just at the alert. Anything she hears, so I apologize for that. Um, yeah, it was a tough game to watch. It was a must-win game for us. We need, of course, every game is a must-win game, but I mean, the teams that we lost to so far, they're bad teams, and the teams that we have beaten so far, none of them have a winning record. Maybe 500 at best. And so we don't know what the identity is yet of the San Francisco 49ers. I know injuries are a major part of the Sega of what we like to call the injury 49er Sega. Each year, it seems like every year we encounter injuries to our depth positions. It don't matter who it is. We brought in Mooney free agency. Now he's injured. It seems like a plague of injuries. It has been over the 49ers. What do you think that is? I know people want to blame the strength and conditioning coach. We have fired so many and hired new ones. Same result. Diets have been changed, practices have been changed, regiments have been changed, and same results: injuries, injuries, injuries. Kalen, what are the Niners doing wrong? And
Man,
because of these injuries, my friend.
man, it's a really good question. It's really the $1 million question, probably $1 billion at this point question for the 49ers. And yeah, it's just really tough, because like a lot of these players, they're not necessarily like, I mean, some of them are injury prone, but Charvarius Ward was always very healthy with Kansas City. Eric Armstead traditionally has always been very healthy, but this year he's been out for most of the season. And it's just weird to see that, like, before the season started, we announced six captains. Four of them are not playing. Like, four of them are not playing, which is just insane to think about. And when you look at these players who are not playing, it's really just a shame because, like, we see what the team can do when fully healthy. And the offense, outside of, well, I guess the offense isn't even that healthy because we're down our quarterback, left tackle, running back. And yeah, it's hard to watch sometimes where every game you expect someone to get hurt. But luckily, and here I guess here's some good news, is that a lot of like the remaining games that we have are going to be at home, so that's a really good sign. I believe maybe of our next, we have 11 more games in the season. I think maybe like 7 or 8 of them are at home, so got to feel good about that. But it's just, I don't know if it's bad luck or what, but yeah, it's hard to watch.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, man. It's a difficult time. Um, I know a lot of Niner fans that I talked to during a few days ago. You know, if we had a full crew, um, nothing's certain in the NFL. That's why you don't never underlook any team. But I think if we would have had a healthy roster with Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, Bosa, Emmanuel Mosley, Mooney, nobody getting hurt, pretty much. I think this outcome would have been different. I think the Niners would have definitely beaten the Falcons pretty well in this game. But it is what it is, my friend. It is 3-3. Now we're coming up and we're facing the Dragon in the Kansas City Chiefs. They just took an L at home from the Buffalo Bills. They're not happy. They want to get back in the winning column. Man, talk about a wrong time to face these guys. They are a 3-point favorite in our house, which is expected. I actually expected to go higher by the end of the a week. Um, but we're going to bring up our first topic, and we're going to get into this. And this is a topic that I like to say: is Kyle Shanahan the right coach for this team? And I want to get your thoughts, Kaylin.
I think that he is. And look, he's not perfect. No coach really is perfect. I mean, the great Bill Belichick, the Patriots are 3-3 as well. So, when everyone talks about Belichick being, and he's probably one of the best coaches of all time. So, I think he's the right coach. I do think that he maybe needs to start making some more adjustments in terms of, like, the one thing which kind of, there was a picture I saw on Twitter, and it was a really interesting one where it had D'Amico Ryans had all the defenders in a huddle getting, like, he was firing them up to be like, hey, we got to turn this around. Like, Kyle Shanahan isn't really that guy, but it'd be nice to see it, like a little bit of fire, like a little bit of passion from him in terms of like gathering the team, getting them together. But look, overall, I know people want to blame Kyle for some of these injuries, but a lot of the injuries are on the defense. So I don't know how that's on Kyle. But I mean, you look at the last 3 years and a Super Bowl appearance, which we should have won, NFC Championship appearance too, and you know, a lot of franchises. I know the Niners, and we have, our standards are very high considering our history, and they rightfully should be high. But a lot of franchises have. When's the last time, like, any, like, let's say the Detroit Lions. And I don't want to be compared to the Lions because they're not a good franchise, but like a lot of teams would kill to get where we've been. And I still think this team is really good. I think this team in the second half of the season is going to be really good. But ultimately, yes, I think that Shanahan is the right coach because a lot of times when you throw out, who else would you rather have? People will argue D'Amico, but we've never seen D'Amico as a head coach. He's never been a head coach. So, for me personally, I do think that Shanahan is the right coach.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm not ready to fire him yet. Is he the right coach this year? Yes. Is he the offensive genius that everybody likes to call him? I don't know if he is, honestly. Let's face it. Bill Belichick is considered a genius when it comes to defense. His defense has been top five for most of the part. Maybe 5 times they've been at the bottom, but for the most part, they've been irrelevant. Can we say the same thing about Kyle Shanahan and our offense? Let's face it. I understand when he took over, he had to take over and rebuild the team, and that's not easy to do. And he had dealt with a lot of injuries, and a lot of people may say, "Well, Kyle doesn't really have the quarterback to run the system that he wants to run." This is why he drafted Trey Lance, and hopefully this is the guy. But what I've seen so far, in my personal opinion, I don't think Kyle is a genius. I think he's an okay head coach. I think he's a great offensive coordinator. But sometimes when you take on the role of head coach and you take all that responsibility where you got to worry about the defense, the special teams, and you start putting a lot on your plate, it kind of hurts individuals that are good at their craft. Like, I'm trying to think of his name. He's the one that helped me out, Ken, if you remember yourself. When Troy Aikman was inducted to the Hall of Fame, he had his offensive coordinator introduce him. Do you remember who he was? I can't remember. I mean, I know who he is. I just can't remember his name. He was a head coach for a while for the Raiders and the Chargers as well. And he didn't.
Norv Turner.
Norv Turner. Thank you, Kaylin. Norv Turner was, again, an excellent, in my opinion, offensive caller. But it seemed that he struggled each and every time he became a head coach. He couldn't be successful, but you put him back in his element, which is offensive coaching, the guy's a genius. And I'm starting to feel that Kyle's starting to fill in the same spot where if he's an offensive mind, he's great, but as a head coach, it's just a little bit too much. And a lot of it, in my opinion, has to do with him being stubborn in his ways. Excuse me. He wants to do certain things his way. It's my way or the highway. He doesn't give players opportunities like Danny Gray. What is he doing in his street clothes in the sidelines when you have Ray dropping the ball, which is not a starter? You have Charlie Warner, which is not George Kittle, going deep. Is he trying to like play tricks on Atlanta with these backups? Why don't you have your starters out there? Brandon Ayuk had a great game against Atlanta. Why not use him more? These are the things that I question myself when it comes to Kyle Shanahan's ability to be a head coach. Now, am I ready to fire him? No. The fact that there's nobody right now in my mind that can replace him, you don't want to just fire and go back to the Tom Sula's Chip Kelly days. But in the same token, Kaylin, you can't let fear stop you from taking chances. Just like the fact if we do fire Kyle, maybe we do get the next Tom Sula. And that's crappy, right? But what happens if we get the next Andy Reid? What happens if we get the next Bill Walsh? You got to take a risk. But I am not ready to fire him mid-season. Absolutely not. And unless the Niners have a good backup contingency plan, then Kyle gives us the best chances of winning. Now, injuries does not help him at all. I understand, but good coaches find ways to put their best players in positions to win. Where is TDP? Where is Jordan Mason? Where are these players at? Um, you know what I mean? And then you got, I don't know, and then you got Jake Brundle has no business being a center for us. The guy is a tweener. So to our question, Kyle Shannon, is he the right coach? I think so far, yes, but in the near future, no. And I think he is and should be in the hot seat. And if he continue not to win games, then maybe we should consider moving on to our next coach. I'm glad you answered that question. Let me go ahead and move on to the next one, my friend. Did Jimmy G do enough to win this game?
That's a tough one. I mean, in some ways, yes, he did have his usual like a couple of throws that were not good, but I mean, you kind of mentioned it. You know, we a perfect pass to Charlie Werner right down the middle, on the money. Like you can't throw a better football. Hit him in stride, he drops it. The throw to Ray was a really good throw. And of course, we could always like speculate. If that was Danny Gray, he probably would have come up with it. But I mean, some of the throws were excellent. The one where Brendel gets called for the holding, where he throws it to Ayuk about like 30 something yards down the field. Just excellent throws. And I think what really hurt the 49ers is, we couldn't run the ball. Like we really couldn't run the ball. And maybe it was like Kyle getting a little bit scared after the fumble and maybe him not trusting these other players. But then why do we have the players then if you don't trust them? And because we only had 16 rushes for 50 yards. That is not 49er football in any way, shape, or form. I don't care who's your offensive coordinator. Like, you're not going to win a ton of games rushing like that. And but I think in going back to Garoppolo, I mean, I thought he had like a pretty good game. Now you look at 2 interceptions. One of those was right before halftime. So I mean, he was just kind of throwing it up. But the other one was on Garoppolo for sure. Looking for Debo, throws it high, ball gets tipped up. That's always a dangerous throw. But overall, I did think he played well enough. I just don't think everything around. And you want to have a quarterback like a Mahomes or Josh Allen who can go out and just straight up win you the game. But I thought Garoppolo played pretty well. No run game really to speak of. The defense, was just giving up long drive after long drive after long drive. No turnovers. Um, yeah, I mean, did he play fantastic? No, but I thought he played well enough for the team to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Jimmy Garoppolo fan. People that know me know this. I am a big Trey Lance fan, but I do have to give credit where credit is due. I mean, I'm not a big Jimmy fan. I'm not Jimmy rah rah here and Jimmy rah rah there, but those drop passes were not on Jimmy. They were not on Kyle. They were, well, Kyle to some extent for putting those particular players out there, but it definitely wasn't on Jimmy. Jimmy did put the ball where the ball needed to be, especially both of them had great opportunities, but the Charlie Warner was, I mean, it was like in his gloves. I think you and I could have caught that easily. Probably you would have caught it better than me, Ken, and I would have probably fumbled it. But to the point is, Jimmy did put it in the hands where it could have been caught, and they were dropped both times. Crucial moments of the game. The fumble of Jeff Wilson Jr. was not on Jimmy either, and that was a 7 point for the defense against us. So now the 2 ints. One of them, I can argue that it wasn't on him either. I mean, it was deflected up in the air by Debo Samuel. Now people say it was because it was a little too high, and Debo went try to get it and hit Debo's hands, and it flicked up in the air, and it was caught for an interception. Who knows? And the other one was his fault. So 2 ints. But I think Jimmy was moving the ball well for the most part. He was standing in the pocket. He took some hits. Um, and overall, I think Jimmy did pretty good. And I know that Jimmy haters are going to be like, who cares? Uh, this and that. But I don't know, guys. At the end of the day, are we 49er fans or are we I mean, do we hate an individual so much that it can overtake the desire to win for our team? It's like I've heard Niner fans say, I'd rather lose games without Jimmy than win with him. And I'm like, at that point, I have to really question, are you really a Niner faithful? Because do if I had my cake and ice cream, it would be Trey Lance. We will be 6-0 with Trey Lance. That's what I want. But the reality is, you got to support. You don't have to like. You don't have to buy their jersey. You don't have to get a tattoo that says Jimmy G. Okay? But if you're faithful, you will support whatever player is playing the position within this organization. Now, you can criticize their play. You can talk about what they did well and what they did bad. That's what me and Kalen do. But at the end of the day, Kalen, show your tattoo, bro. What is that? That's a 49er tattoo. I don't see Jimmy on there, and I don't see Trey Lance. I see the 49er logo. So I'm pretty sure, and Kalen, tell me if I'm overstepping here. I'm pretty sure that even if you are more of a Trey Lance fan, you support Jimmy. Why? Because he's the quarterback of your team. And unless I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you want your team to win each and every week, no matter who's back there, correct?
Correct.
See, so faithful, whether you love Jimmy or not, whether you support him or not, understand this. He is the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. When he is successful, we are most likely winning games. So, do I think he did enough? I think he did. Unfortunately, our defense was not able to do much because of injury. Now, this is something that I want to point out. People say when we have a great defense and a great running game, we win games with Jimmy. What happens when we don't have the defense or the run game? Can we still win games with Jimmy? I think Jimmy did enough, but I don't think Jimmy's the it factor either. I don't think Jimmy can put the whole team on his back and carry a W like Mahomes or Josh Allen by any means. But if you do have a good defense and you do have a good running game, you can win with Jimmy. I guarantee you, you put Nick Mullins with a good defense and a great running game, he'll still find a way to lose it. So it is what it is, man. So moving on to our next question, my friend. Is Jake Brundle, I don't know if I spelled his last name correctly or not, probably not. Is he the weakest link on the O-line, in your opinion?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, he's definitely getting a lot of people are really getting on Jake Brendel, and I think a lot of it's fairly justified. Some really bad penalties against the Falcons. Overall, look, he wasn't our he wasn't our number one guy. Like it should have been Alex Mack, and then Alex Mack retires. And I think that the 49ers, in hindsight, they probably would have maybe gone back and done things a little bit differently, whether it's in the draft or else like free agency, maybe getting like a veteran guy or making a trade for somebody. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely the weakest of all of the guys out there, and I didn't think I'd be saying that, especially when we have our third left tackle out there. Yet it's Brendel who's really not playing that well. But yeah, I think like the offensive line. I mean, I don't. They didn't play great. Run blocking was really not there on Sunday, but I thought the pass blocking was okay, not amazing, but okay. But I think to answer your question, that Brendel is probably the weakest guy on the offensive line. I'd be curious to see, if McGlinchey's healthy, maybe they try and work Brunskill in a little bit more at center. But honestly, I think what we will probably do is roll with Brendel up until the bye week. And then when you have the bye week and you have extra time, maybe then you make a move and put Brendel at center, or sorry, Brunskill at center. But for now we're kind of stuck with him. So we'll just have to see. Hopefully he plays well these next couple of games. He's got big tasks ahead of him. He's got Chris Jones of the Chiefs, then Aaron Donald, the Rams. So hopefully he can hold his own.
Yeah, I agree. And there's not that much more I can add, honestly. To your point, you made some very, very valid points. We're going to have to see how he does against the Chiefs and the Rams. And then going into the bye, I think the 49ers will sit there and consider whether they should come out of the bye with him again or maybe move Daniel Brunskill to center. Now, the more and the better that Spencer Buford plays, the more chances of Daniel Brunskill moving over to center. Because as you know, Daniel Brunskill has been rotating in and out with Spencer Buford at the right guard position. So the more, in my opinion, the more that Spencer Buford anchors that guard position at the right side will determine. Now, McClinchy got hurt and he didn't come back. He tried to come back and he didn't come back and he stayed out. And Daniel Brunskill took over at right tackle. Now, if McClinchy's going to be out for a minute, we're going to see what happens there. But to our question, is Brundle the weakest link? I believe he is. Those two penalties, I believe there was two. It could have been more that he committed were just, man, frustrating. As it is, you're already playing behind the eight ball with an injury team. Then you're going to go ahead and shoot yourself in the foot by taking away potential first downs with dumb penalties. And we can't have that. When you're playing with injured players and you're playing sensibly with your backups, you got to play smart football. And when you're a starter like Jake Brundle, you got to be smarter than that. And unfortunately, it hurt us. It hurt us a lot. So do I think he's the weakest link? I think me and Kaylin and most of you watching probably agree that he is. So we'll see what happens. But it's too early to talk about next year, but the Niners definitely need to make either bring in someone with experience or draft somebody high for that position because this guy's not it at all. Moving on, this question here, I'm interested to see your thoughts, Kaylin. And I want to hear what your guys' thoughts as well watching the podcast. What are your thoughts on these topics? Please leave it in the comments. Me and Kaylin will review it. And if I tell you what, leave your comments, and the best comment that we read, we're going to bring it up in next week's episode. How about that, Kaylin? The best comment that is either left on my channel or left on Kaylin's channel, me and Kaylin will review them. And if we both agree on it, your question or thought will be brought up. And we'll give you a little bit of a shine on the next episode. What do you think about that, Kaylin? Sounds good?
I love it, man. That's a great idea.
So get involved, viewers. Put your thoughts. So this next topic is, oops, wrong one. Is Javon Kinlaw a bust based on him being injury prone? Not on talent wise, but basically not being on the field or able to stay on the field. Is he a bust in your opinion, Kaylin?
I think he is. Again, you've already kind of framed it well. That it's not. We're not saying that he's a bad player, but he's just not available. He's just not there. He missed 12, 13 games last season. I think, do we put him on IR? So he's going to be out for.
He already missed 2. We put him on IR. That's 4. So it's going to be a total of 6 so far this year.
I think the last game he played this year was against the Broncos. I don't think he played against the Rams. So he's already missed about 3 games. He's going to miss maybe the entire season again. The knee is just causing issues, and all off season we were saying, hey, he gets the surgery, and the knee problems are a thing of the past, and then it's 3 games into the year, and it's already swelling up and causing him issues. So, and unfortunately, and it sucks because I think in those first 3 games this year, I thought he was playing really well, like really good stuffing the run, being disruptive in there, really helping the defense a lot, and we could really use him. But yeah, I mean, for what we drafted him for in the first round, a top 15 pick, we basically needed him out there, and he hasn't been there. So we haven't seen what we expected just because we haven't seen him. So I think it's fair to say at this point, he's in his 3rd year in the league. It's not like he's a 2nd-year guy or it's a rookie. Like, we're talking 3rd year, So the only way he can convince me otherwise is if he can come back after the injured reserve and play really well down the stretch and into the playoffs. But honestly, at this point, he's kind of given me a little bit of vibes like almost like a Jason Verrett, where it's like, I mean, hopefully he's out there. I'm not expecting it though. Kind of like hoping for the best, but expecting him just not to be there, which is a bummer.
Yeah. To your point, at least Jason Verrett gave us a complete year in 2020. Javon Kinlaw yet has to able to do a whole year. I agree. Listen, the best availability is availability. Ability is availability. Being on the field, able to produce. He was taken, and I hate the comparisons with DeForest Buckner. DeForest Buckner's a different player. Kinlaw's a different player. If Kinlaw was, excuse me, if Kinlaw was struggling with his pass protection, or if he couldn't get to the quarterback, or if he was struggling with techniques, there would be hope that he can work that out and get better. But when you're dealing with chronic pain, when you're dealing with injury on your knee since college, and now you're in the pro for the 3rd year and you're still dealing with that same injury, it's not like you can teach yourself how to play through it. When you're not playing good football, you can learn better techniques, you can learn better things and become better. When you're injury prone due to no fault of his own, unfortunately, just a bad situation for him, then having this chronic pain on his knee. He had surgery. Supposedly, he said he felt like a new man, like he had a new leg, and we were optimistic. He was optimistic. We're like, all right, we're getting the Javon Kinlaw that we drafted. Couple of games, boom, he's back out. He's on IR. So if you're not there plugging the hole, if you're not there stopping the run, I don't care how good your ability to do on the field is. I don't care how good you are. If you're not able to play, perfect example, D Ford, great defensive end, great pass rusher, but he wasn't on the field. So it doesn't matter how good you are. If you cannot be on the field, to me, yes, you're a bust based on that. Is he a bad talent like Solomon Thomas? No. I am not compared. If Javon Kinlaw was healthy, we would be having a different conversation right now. Guarantee you. Because when Kinlaw was on the field, he was very, in my opinion at least, he was very productive. He was able to stop the run. He was plugging in the hole. He was taking on 2 men, and he was allowing the linebackers to run freely back there. So he was very productive while he's on the field. But the point is, he spends more time on the sidelines with the pom-poms next to the cheerleaders that he does on the field next to his teammate. And that's just the reality, Kalen. We need players. You know, at this point, I'd rather take a Hassan Ridgeway, who is not as talented as Javon Kinlaw, but at least he's out there playing. You know what I mean? So because there's a point where you got to take less talent over better talent if they're available to be on the field. Because what's the point to have great talent? Imagine Bosa's talent, as good as he is, but imagine if Bosa was, and knock on wood, but imagine if Bosa was in the Javon Kinlaw category where the talent that we've seen so far in Bosa, but Bosa keeps missing games. Look how much he was missed against Atlanta. We need Bosa, just like we needed Javon Kinlaw. So leave us in your comments. What are your thoughts on the Kinlaw situation? Do you think he's a bust based on his injuries? Do you think they were overreacting on this? Maybe he's not a bust in your opinion. Please leave it in the comments. Again, we're going to go through these comments and we're going to acknowledge the best comment in this podcast on our next podcast. So have those comments coming. All right. You ready for the next question, my friend?
Let's do it.
How long do you think Charvarius Ward will miss due to this groin injury? Now, he's stating that he looks like he'll be back for Kansas City. But if you ever had a groin injury, you may want to play, but the groin might have a different perspective on that. Do you think he'll play against the Chiefs? Do you think he'll miss some time because of that injury?
It's a tough call. You know, it's still early in the week. I think once we get to Wednesday, like tomorrow, Thursday, and then Friday, we'll obviously get a better idea. But man, I think he's really going to want to play. It's his former team. You know, I think he's going to do whatever he can to go out there. Of course, you know, the 49ers, like the coaching staff and the training staff have to like figure like, is it worth it? Could he get himself hurt? But overall, I really hope he's out there because we really, really need him against Kansas City because we know their passing attack is just crazy good. So, but I think with the Charvarius, you know, I mean, he's a great player. He's played very well this year. I really hope he doesn't miss any time. And I think my gut's telling me that he's going to be out there. He's going to give it a go. And then if it kind of starts acting up, then he'll come out. But we'll see.
Yeah. And another thing we have to consider too is he's going to do whatever he can again to be out there because, like you mentioned, he is playing against his former team. And I don't care what people say. Oh, it's not a big deal. It's just my former team. Players, listen. Players always circle the calendar when they have to play their former team. They may not be publicly, but they do inwardly. Now, we have to consider. If he's able to go, how good is he going to be able to play? I want 100% or at least 90% Charvarius Ward. I don't want him limping out there because he wants to play. And the Niners feel like, oh, we got to let him play. And if he's not 100% or at least 90, because he can hurt the team that way. Because when you have a groin injury, if you move a certain way, you break a certain way, man, that thing can really, you can just mess it up. So, but to Kalen's point, and very valid point, it is only Tuesday. Wednesday, practice. Thursday and Friday, we will know for sure or have a better idea of where we're at with Charvarius. Or better yet, he and the 49ers will have a better idea of where he is with this injury. Let's just hope, let's keep our fingers crossed that he can recover from this and that he'll be able to play and be good. Because I want him to play good. I don't want him just to be out there. I want him to, because if anybody knows Patrick Mahomes' tendencies, it's going to be him. He knows the way Mahomes thinks. He practiced against him for a minute. So he knows the looks that Mahomes gives. So I think he'll be very important key to have out there. So let's pray that he's healthy. Let's pray that he'll be effective if he's out there. And if not, then let's not take a chance on him and get him hurt more. The next question. Now this one here, I would like to get your thoughts. Will Eric Armstead play another down this season in 2022 because it doesn't look like Kyle Shanahan is very optimism when it comes to his injury. Remember, he has the same, not the same, but foot injuries is what kept Patrick Willis from playing and finishing his career. I'm not sure what the injuries, if they're similar or not, but not only is Eric Armstead not just hurting on one foot like he was before, now it's both of his feet. So, for what you've been hearing from your sources, Kalen, do you think Armstead plays this year? Or,
Ooh, I don't know. It's tough. I do think that he will play this year. If they were like, you know what, Eric is, we're gonna have to shut him down. They would just probably they would make the move now and then just open up that roster spot. So I think there is, I mean, optimism that he'll play at some point. I think what we will do is basically evaluate it through. We're not going to see him before the bye week. Evaluate it, during the bye week. See what what we how he's like feeling, how he's looking then, and then from there, hopefully he can go for the second half of the year. I mean, in his career, Eric Armstead has been very, very reliable, very durable. He's been out there a lot, but it's obviously unfortunate for any player to get hurt at any time. But this year in particular, just because we have so many injuries, it's just hitting us even harder. But I do think that he'll play again. But I think we're probably not going to see him. At least it's probably going to be about a month or so before we see him again, just because of we're not going to see him against Kansas City. I don't think we'll see him against the Rams. Then we have the bye week, and then after that, where it's the game against the Chargers. So I would hope that he'll be back for that game because we will absolutely need him against the Chargers. But so I guess I'm optimistic in that sense that we'll see him at some point. But these things change very quickly. Sometimes players, it's like, oh, we thought Kinlaw, oh, he'll be out for one game or two, and now it's he's going to miss most of the year. So, yeah, we'll just have to. It's a kind of like a wait and see approach, I think, right now. But fingers crossed that he, his foot starts feeling a lot better, and that he'll be able to go for the second half of the season because there's a lot of big games. There's still a lot of football left, and hopefully he will be out there for it because we definitely need him.
yeah, I agree. I know a lot of 49er fans were like, man, we should have kept Buckner and got rid of Eric Armstead. And whether that's true or not, whether that's valid or not, the reality is Buckner wanted more money. The Niners did not want to pay that for the position that he played. He moved on to the Colts. We kept Eric. Now, Eric, in my opinion, has played very, very well. When you put him in, when he's healthy, Eric Armstead, in my opinion, is very underrated D tackle. He demands, he's a big boy. He takes on two linemen at all times, and he opens it up for the linebackers to do their thing. When you have, and he's great against the run. He's a mammoth of a human being. Not to take nothing away from Kevin Givens and Hassan Ridgeway. Those are great guys, but those are feeling guys. Those are the guys that you bring in the rotation for depth, to give Eric rest and so forth. But when you want to anchor, ideally it's Javon Kinlaw and Eric Armstead. And as you saw in against the Falcons, we were without Bosa, without Javon Kinlaw, and without Eric Armstead. And occasionally we were without Samson. Samson might not be the greatest pass rusher, but he's a good edge run stopper. He can keep you from running on the outside. He can contain the outside. You notice when he was out for plays with injury, they ran to his side and they ran effectively. When you have these injuries like this, Kalen, I'm sorry, you're not going to win most games. So I want Eric Armstead to heal up as quickly as possible. Do I think he'll miss the whole year? Probably not. But when it comes to injuries, if we do get him back, which Eric Armstead are we getting? Are we getting the Eric Armstead that started the year? Or are we getting one that it's kind of like working through these injuries? Because when you work through injuries and it's a nagging one, I don't care who you are. I don't care how good you are. It messes with you psychologically. And if it messes with you up here, it'll mess with you in your body. So let's pray that he's healthy. And let's pray that he comes strong. And whenever he's ready to go, make sure that he's good enough where he's not thinking too much of his pain and he's just reacting out there. But we definitely do need him. All right, moving on to our last question of the segment. Your thoughts, Kaylin. Is Brandon Ayuk a true number one receiver on this team right now?
I think overall, strictly as a receiver, yes. I think Ayuk is probably the number one guy. When you just look at again strictly at wide receiver, I think his route running is the best on the team. He's able to make plays after the catch. Great hands, makes really amazing sideline catches. So I think he is our number one wide receiver. I mean, we know Debo does a lot of different things. I think Debo is probably, I know when we signed him back in 2017, we kind of crowned Kyle Juszczyk as the offensive weapon. But to me, it's, Debo Samuel is the true offensive weapon where you can do a lot of different things. But Brandon Ayuk, he is the number one wide receiver. I was glad to see that he was getting, him, Kittle, and Debo, they all had at least 10 targets against Atlanta. So that was good to see Ayuk get targeted more and more. Hopefully that continues because I think typically when we throw the ball his way, good things happen. So I noticed that a lot of the interceptions tend to happen when we're either throwing to Debo or to Kittle, and defenses just put so much emphasis on stopping those guys that I think even maybe around the NFL that, people know about Brandon Ayuk, but I think it's when you have defensive coordinators, like they look at the 49ers, they're like, got to stop Debo Samuel, got to slow down George Kittle, got to stop their run game. Oh, and then there's Brandon Ayuk too. So I don't think he's really a point of like emphasis for a lot of defensive coaches. And the Niners need to take advantage of that. Like the one thing which I see with Brandon Ayuk is he gets open a lot and doesn't always get the ball thrown his way. And I think that's a big thing where the Trey Lance injury really hurt because we know all off season long, those guys were building that chemistry. They were practicing a bunch by themselves, going down to Southern California and practicing. Whereas Jimmy, I think it's still building that chemistry. Jimmy has the chemistry with Debo, has, of course, the chemistry with Kittle because, they played together for so long. But when you think about it, in Brandon Ayuk's rookie year, 2020, Jimmy was hurt and missed a bunch of games that year. Last year, they started to form that chemistry. But if we remember the first 4 or 5 weeks, Brandon Ayuk was in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse for the first few weeks. So it took a while for Ayuk to get going. But this year, I hope as the season goes along that we really do see Brandon Ayuk emerge as the true number one wide receiver because he's more than capable of making that happen.
Yeah, agreed. And you, well said. There's plenty of times where he's been open and he's hasn't been looked at by Jimmy. Whether Jimmy's been under duress or Jimmy's just not going through his progressions quick enough. But Brandon Ayuk, in my opinion, as a pure receiver, is the number one in my book, even over Debo. Now, Debo, I love how you said it. He's that Swiss Army knife, if you will, where you can use him as a receiver, you can use him as a tight end, you can use him as a running back, you can even use him as a part-time quarterback. We've seen him do it. So overall, we're not. The question is not who's a better player, Brandon Ayuk or Debo. The question is Brandon Ayuk a true number one? And I think he is. And I think we both agree on that. I think on another team, he would be. Or if we didn't have Debo, he definitely would be that number one receiver. And that's a great problem to have. It's kind of like having Jerry Rice and John Taylor back in the day. We just got to utilize them more often. And Jimmy needs to get the ball to Ayuk. We saw how effective Ayuk was yesterday on Sunday when he played against Atlanta. Even though we lost, he had 2 touchdowns, and he was moving the ball very well. So we got to find ways to get the ball into the playmakers' hands, and Ayuk is definitely a playmaker for this team. Um, and Kittle, I know Kittle's not the topic that I brought up, but Kittle, in my opinion, has played more or got the ball more in this game than he did all year long. I think he had like 83 yards. He was targeted like 8 times, if I'm not mistaken, which is not bad. I mean, it's not enough for a tight end like of his caliber, but compared to how many targets he was getting before, it's pretty good jump start. Hopefully, Kittle starts stepping in. We need Kittle, and not just in a blocking tight end. We need him out there getting first downs. We need his personality to just kind of take over that offense, man. His WWE mentality just ooze out of him and just fall. Yeah, just fall into the receiver because it's contagious. It is contagious, and this offense needs to kind of wake up, and I think they will. But to the question is, yes, Ayuk is a true number one. Again, in your comments, please leave it. Do you guys agree? Is Brandon Ayuk a true number one? If he isn't, why isn't he? And if he is, why is he, in your opinion? And again, the best question that we see in the comments, whether it's on my podcast or on Shifty's channel, we will combine them and we will give you a little bit of fame, if you will, on our next podcast next week. Well, that concludes this podcast, Kaylin. Is there anything you want to say prior to ending the show, brother?
Couple of things. I think you made a great point there about Kittle too. And and that's like the 49er football that when the Niners are playing their best is when, obviously, when we're running the ball, but when we're being the physically dominant team. Not only does that mean that you run the ball well, but it also means get the ball in Kittle's hands and like knock over the defender. We saw Debo do it. I can't remember what defender it was again on Sunday, but he ran right through an Atlanta defender. Unfortunately, it was in the fourth quarter with only a few minutes left, but ultimately, I think the players feed off of that. When you have to think that it gets everyone pumped up when they see George Kittle break a tackle, run over a guy, and Debo do the same thing. So hopefully we can get back to that. Now, I think that like a lot of this, there's a lot of course, and it's funny with the NFL, there's a lot of doom and gloom, right now, just because we lost to the Falcons. It was a game that I think almost every 49er fan probably thought we were going to win. We missed some opportunities, but here's the thing in the NFL, which is great. Can you imagine if we beat Kansas City on Sunday? Can you imagine how pumped up the Niners will be? That would completely change what the outlook of the season is. Now, if I'm a betting man, if I was a betting man, if I was putting money on the game, I'm going to say Kansas City probably beats us. But you never know what can happen. The 49ers, we thought we were going to go into Atlanta and beat them. Maybe the Chiefs think they're going to come into Levi Stadium and going to win, but maybe we have a great drive to start the game. Maybe we force a turnover. So it's crazy how like week to week the NFL is. Number one, I mean, hopefully, and look, guys like Trent Williams might be back, and that's a huge, huge thing because if Trent Williams is back, then I think that allows for what you said is it allows for Kittle to kind of be out there receiving the ball a lot more. But so I think, and it's a long, long season. Even if we go into the bye week, if we're 4-4, I would maybe take that right now. Probably would. I'd be like 4-4. We'll get guys coming back, from injury, and then we'll just go and do our second half run. But overall, I think for Niner fans, it's easy to be down in the dumps right now. But I want Levi. Levi's got to be loud. Charvarius Ward was saying it on. Like get the crowd going, try and throw Mahomes off, and there's a lot of players here who were on that Super Bowl team. For years these guys have been thinking about this game. Kyle Shanahan, for damn sure has, and all these players, Jimmy, Kittle, Debo, all those guys out there, they want revenge, and so I think that assuming that we get some of our important players back if they're healthy for this game, then don't be surprised if maybe a bit of an upset, the 49ers. And if we win, just think about all the 49er, content creators, all of us, we're going to be like, oh my God, what a crazy win. And we're all happy. So, it's the NFL's a funny thing, but yeah, that's kind of just how I wanted to wrap it up.
I agree. I think the Niners beating Kansas City, like you say, Kansas City coming in here, I think maybe overlooking us, thinking that that it's going to be an ECW, and we get the victory, just like tonight. Uh, the Lakers are going to beat the Warriors and beat the champions in their court. Their opening court where they show the flag and the championship ring. But let's be honest, Caitlin, not that I know this is 49er football, but a lot of times the Warriors are way better team than the Lakers. The Lakers don't really have that many shooters. I'm bragging about my team, but my team's not a good team right now. I know that. But we're hoping that maybe the Warriors are just so caught up in the ring and so caught up in the performance and all that craziness could take a little bit of toll on their excitement, and we could come in and get a win tonight based on that, but not truly just on talent or which team is better. 9 out of 10, the Warriors will win. I'm not gonna be ignorant in that, but if the Lakers win tonight, I say the Niners will beat Kansas City. If the Lakers lose, then the Kansas City chances of winning are pretty high. What are your thoughts on that, Kaylin?
Well, well. Well, I don't really know what to say to that. I mean, I think you do make a good point though that maybe the Warriors will be caught up. It's the ring ceremony, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we actually have a game to play. And I mean the Lakers, they do have some like really quality players. I do think the Warriors are a better team, but you never know, and that's with basketball too. I mean, it's sometimes like you have like guys like Curry and Klay Thompson and all these guys, sometimes the shots just aren't going down for whatever reason. So I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch for sure. Not only for like Warriors fans, because it's, first game of the year, it's the ring ceremony, but also, the Lakers, they want to come in and they want to spoil the party. So they want to basically crash the party. But I don't know. And basketball is a funny thing because it's kind of, I mean, basketball and hockey and baseball, there's just so many games that it's kind of like hard to say like one way or another. It's not like in football because there's a lot fewer games. It's like one game means a lot. Whereas in basketball and baseball, I mean, there's just so many games that it's not as big of a deal, but I think it's going to be really fun. I mean, it's a great rivalry.
Definitely. And if my boy Anthony Davis, by the way, that's the jersey that I'm wearing, is my big boy Anthony Davis. If he can stay healthy, that's the problem. He's such a talented player. We talked about Javon Kinlaw. We talked about injuries. No difference when it comes to Anthony Davis. He's a great talent on the court when he's on the court. The problem is he misses a lot due to injuries. So as Laker fans, those that watch this podcast, if you're a Laker fan, you're like, yeah, stay healthy. If you're not a fan of the Lakers, you're like, oh, I hope he gets hurt. But which way you guys think, I just pray that he stays healthy. It's going to be a fun game tonight, Kaylin. Enjoy your Warriors, whether they win or lose. You guys are the defending champions, and it's going to be a wonderful season. I wish you guys, honestly, the best of season. I'm not against the Warriors. Like, I just like certain teams. I have nothing against the Warriors. Obviously, I'm a Laker fan, and people always question me like, "You're northern, born and raised in the Northern California. How in the heck did you end up being a Laker fan?" But Kareem, when I was watching Kareem play, remember back then? Yeah, remember back in the day. See, I'm an older guy. Okay, I'm an old fart. The Warriors were not the Warriors of today. The Lakers back then were like the team to watch. Kareem, Magic, Kobe, Shaq. I mean, the 17 championships. 16, the 17th in 2020. And a lot of people don't even call that a world championship. Well, it's still a ring, in my opinion, regardless of how you get it. Because any other team could have got it. But my point being is, the Lakers were the team to watch back then when I got myself into basketball, and this is why I love the Lakers. I can't stand the Dodgers. I can't stand USC Trojans. I don't like ULC, whatever. I can't even say that school. And I don't like the Rams. People are like, but how do you like the Lakers? The Warriors were not as good back then when I started to play or watch basketball. And I'm talking about the 70s, 80s basketball. So that's how I became a Lakers fan, in and out. And, the easiest thing would have been to change to the Warriors once the Warriors started to play good. But then what true of a fan are you? Then I would be like a Raider fan, right? They always changes teams, or a Cowboy fan that changes teams, or even Warrior fans. Hey, let's be honest. A lot of Warrior fans came back when the Warriors started to play good. Not on blame them, because the Warriors were terrible. I think the last time you guys were good, relevant, is with what's name was on there. I can't think of his name. What was the name of the point guard?
Baron Davis,
No,
Monte Ellis.
no, I'm talking way, way back more. So you're too young. How old are you,
Oh,
Kaylin?
I'm 35.
Well, you're not that young. You're not that old either. But
There was Run TMC when you had Tim Hardaway, Mitch Richmond, Chris Mullin.
Tim Hardaway, yeah. Back in the day, yeah. But anyway, we're going a little bit too off the rails here. Good luck tonight, Kaylin. Enjoy the game. Those that are watching the podcast, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining the 49ers Weekly Recap. If you're a basketball fan, enjoy the games tonight and tomorrow. Enjoy the season. May your team prosper to the best of their ability, and may the Niners continue to win going forward. One thing we can agree on, we are all faithful, and we will remain faithful no matter how difficult things get. Let's go, Niners. Let's get it together. Let's put it together, and let's beat the Chiefs on Sunday. Good night. Thank you for watching. On to the next podcast. And remember, bring in those comments, because your comment might just be the comment that is brought up and highlighted in our next podcast. Will it be you? Will it be you? Or is it going to be you? You never know unless you leave a comment. Until then, we are out.